Have you ever wondered why one of Britain's most iconic three-wheeled cars suddenly vanished from the roads forever? The Reliant Robin, a car so famous it became the butt of countless jokes, yet somehow managed to make Reliant Britain's second-largest car maker for a time. But after nearly 30 years of production, this quirky three-wheeler met its end in 2002. What really happened? The answer might surprise you. Picture this. It's 1973, and Britain is facing an oil crisis. Fuel prices are skyrocketing, and people are desperate for cheaper ways to get around. Enter the Reliant Robin, a bizarre-looking three-wheeled vehicle that promised to solve all your motoring problems. But here's where it gets interesting, folks. This wasn't just any ordinary car. The Robin was designed specifically to exploit a loophole in British law that would change everything. You see, the Robin's three-wheel layout and lightweight fiberglass body meant it weighed less than 450 kilograms. This magical number allowed it to be classified as a motorcycle rather than a car. What did this mean for drivers? They could operate it with just a motorcycle license and pay motorcycle tax instead of car tax. We're talking about saving around 55 pounds a year. Serious money back then. Plus, the Robin delivered an impressive 60 to 70 miles per gallon. For cash-strapped Brits, this seemed like the perfect solution. But wait, there's more to this story. The Robin wasn't just popular, it became a cultural phenomenon, especially in northern England. Miners who had started with motorbikes but needed weather protection found their perfect vehicle, as one enthusiast put it. In winter, when it was absolutely freezing, these cars would simply glide over snow while normal cars got stuck. The Robin offered practical transportation for people who couldn't afford full driving licenses or expensive four-wheeled cars. Now, here's where things get really interesting. Remember I mentioned the Robin made Reliant Britain's second-largest car maker? That's because this odd little three-wheeler was selling like hotcakes. The MK1 Robin, produced from 1973 to 1981, was followed by a revamped version from 1989 to 2001. For nearly 3 decades, the Robin rolled off production lines and onto British roads. But success often comes with unexpected consequences. The early Robins came with a modest 750cc engine producing just 32 brake horsepower. 0 to 50 took a leisurely 22 seconds, and reaching 60 miles per hour? Well, that wasn't really possible. But in 1975, Reliant decided to upgrade to an 850cc engine. This improved acceleration enormously, but as we'll discover, the consequences were catastrophic. You see, the bigger engine increased the Robin's top speed to 85 miles per hour. Sounds good, right? Wrong. This is where the Robin's fundamental design flaw became deadly apparent. The car used what's called a delta layout, 1 wheel at the front, 2 at the back. This configuration made the Robin notoriously unstable. Under hard braking or cornering, it would lift a rear wheel and easily roll over. But here's the thing that really sealed the Robin's fate. It became a laughingstock. Television shows, comedians, and eventually Top Gear turned the Robin into a national joke. Jeremy Clarkson's famous segment where he repeatedly rolled a Robin became legendary. The car that was once seen as a practical solution became synonymous with danger and ridicule. Public perception had shifted dramatically. Now, let's talk about the economics that really killed the Robin. By the year 2000, something had changed dramatically in the British car market. The Robin's price had risen to about £9,000, while a conventional small four-wheeled car could be purchased for roughly £6,000. Think about that for a moment. You could buy a proper car with four wheels, better stability, and more features for significantly less money than a three-wheeled Robin. The math simply didn't add up anymore. The tax savings that once made the Robin attractive were being overshadowed by its high purchase price and poor reputation. Reliant's management could see the writing on the wall. The company that had built its success on exploiting a legal loophole was facing a harsh economic reality. In September 2000, Reliant shareholders made a crucial decision. They voted to stop building three-wheelers entirely and instead focus on importing Ligier microcars and Piaggio Up three-wheelers. To mark the end of an era, they planned to produce just 65 special edition Robin 65 models, painted in gold and priced at £10,000 each. This was meant to be the Robin swan song. But wait, the story doesn't end there. Just when everyone thought the Robin was finished, a company called B&N Plastics stepped in. They licensed the design and briefly produced updated versions called the BN1 and BN2, starting in July 2001. Hope seemed restored for Robin enthusiasts. However, this revival attempt would face insurmountable challenges. Here's where the final nail went into the Robin's coffin. Reliant had discontinued its 850cc engine and could no longer supply the mechanical parts that B&N needed. Without these essential components, B&N faced a massive problem. They would need significant investment to adapt the Robin to use a different engine, money they simply didn't have. The numbers tell the tragic story. B&N managed to build only around 40 cars before financial reality hit. They had certification issues, ran out of money, and by early 2002, production ground to a complete halt. Some sources suggest they built as few as 18 cars in their final attempt. The Reliant Robin was officially dead. But why did this really happen? Let's break down the perfect storm that killed the Robin. First, safety concerns had mounted over the years. The car's tendency to roll over wasn't just a comedy sketch. It was a genuine safety hazard that insurance companies and regulators couldn't ignore forever. Second, the economic landscape had shifted. The tax advantages that once made the Robin attractive had been eroded by rising purchase prices. Consumers could get better value from conventional cars, making the Robin's unique selling proposition obsolete. Third, public perception had turned toxic. What started as a practical solution for working-class families had become a national punchline. No amount of marketing could overcome the Robin's reputation as an unstable, dangerous vehicle. Fourth, technical challenges proved insurmountable. When Reliant stopped producing engines and parts, the Robin's revival became economically impossible. The specialized nature of three-wheeler production meant that finding alternative suppliers was extremely difficult and expensive. Finally, the regulatory environment was changing. European safety standards were becoming stricter, and the Robin's design would have required significant modifications to meet new requirements. The cost of compliance would have made an already expensive car even more unaffordable. The Reliant Robin's cancellation wasn't the result of a single decision. It was the inevitable outcome of multiple factors converging at once. A car born from economic necessity and legal loopholes couldn't survive when those advantages disappeared and new challenges emerged. So, what's the real lesson here? The Robin story teaches us that even the most successful products can become obsolete when the conditions that created their success change. Innovation born from necessity can thrive for decades, but it must evolve or die when the world moves on. Today, the Reliant Robin exists only in museums, private collections, and YouTube videos. It's remembered as a quirky piece of British motoring history, beloved by some enthusiasts, mocked by many, but ultimately a fascinating example of how creative engineering can exploit legal loopholes to create unexpected success. The Robin's legacy lives on in the stories of the people who drove them, the mechanics who fixed them, and the comedians who made fun of them. It represents a unique moment in automotive history when a three-wheeled car could become Britain's second most popular fiberglass vehicle and make its manufacturer a major player in the industry. But perhaps most importantly, the Robin reminds us that in business, as in life, what goes up must eventually come down. Success built on temporary advantages rarely lasts forever. The Reliant Robin got canceled because the world changed around it, and it couldn't change fast enough to keep up. As one automotive historian put it, the Reliant Robin wasn't killed by any single factor. It was death by 1,000 cuts, each one making survival a little bit harder, until the inevitable end finally came.